Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 7 of the DLF Commissioner Chronicles on the DLF YouTube channel. I am your host, Nathan Powell. I have this series of commissioner videos where I talk about various league settings and jobs as the commissioner of how basically it's when you put all of these together, it's a how-to guide for commissioners of how to implement various league settings. And so for episode 7, we are doing the toilet bowl. So before we get into today's show, make sure you like, subscribe to our DLF YouTube channel. We always appreciate that. Helps us get those views up, and that's always a good thing. So today, episode 7, we are talking about the toilet bowl. So the first question when it comes to the toilet bowl is, what is it? What is the toilet bowl? The toilet bowl is a consolation bracket. So the consolation bracket is for people who do not make the playoffs in their league. So, during the playoff teams have their own bracket and they're playing to win a championship. Well, it's not good to have half the league active in that weeks 14 to 16, and then the other half have no reason to tune in, no reason to log in besides maybe waivers. So you add a consolation bracket in there in the form of a toilet bowl. So traditionally, who is in the toilet bowl is the non-playoff teams. There are some other ways to do it, but that's really the most universal way, and I've only ever run it through non-playoff teams, so the ones competing in the toilet bowl consolation bracket. So it is for the non-playoff teams. And it doesn't matter whether it is a 16-team league, 14-team league, 12-team league. You can run a toilet bowl with 6 teams. If there's 6 teams that are out of the playoffs, 8 teams, any number of teams can be in a toilet bowl. It doesn't have to be a 6 or even an even number at 8. So why do we want a toilet bowl? So like I talked about, it does increase some activity because it requires people who aren't in the playoffs to log in and to set a lineup. And so it increases activity. And part of why you would do it is, what do you win? So this can vary from league to league, but traditionally the toilet bowl winner gets the 1.13 to 12-team league. Basically the pick between the last pick in the first round and the beginning of the second round. So some people say that might be a little bit too valuable of an asset just to be giving away off of a consolation bracket type tournament. So I also think that it's not the worst thing in the world to go with a 2.13, the pick between 212 and 301. But traditionally, just to make it worth people's time, it is that 1.13, the pick between the 112 and the 201. So the reason for doing this is that it creates that activity, and also it creates a motivation. Like if you are a team that isn't making the playoffs and you know that in week 10, week 11, you're like, there's nothing else to do the rest of the year. Well, that's not true. Even if you're a bad team, you still do have a shot at competing for that toilet bowl and that 1.13 or whatever compensation you decide for your toilet bowl. So it increases the motivation of the non-playoff teams. And it also rewards teams, and we can talk about this as we go, it rewards teams that just miss the playoffs. So if you just miss the playoffs, you can say, okay, I'm not going to get a chance at the championship, but I'm one of the best teams in this consolation bracket, so I'll have a good shot at winning this toilet bowl. So for the teams that aren't competing, it keeps them involved in saying, okay, I want to have a chance at this toilet bowl pick. And the teams that are competing but just missed the playoffs, it rewards them in saying, you had a great year, but you're not going to make the playoff, or you had an okay year. You're not going to make the playoffs, but you have a shot at a consolation pick. So how do you do it? There are a number of ways to do a toilet bowl. The primary one being, not primary one. There's a number of ways to do it. There's free-for-all versus head-to-head. So in a free-for-all, the free-for-all format works best when you have an even number of toilet bowl teams. So, for example, if you have 8 teams, it's a 14-team league, 6 teams make the playoffs, so 8 teams in the consolation bracket. So in that format, you would have in week 14, the top 4 teams advance. In week 15, the top 2 teams advance. And then they play in a championship just like the teams that are in the playoffs playing in the championship. And the winner of that game earns the toilet bowl compensation, whether it's 1.13, 2.13, whatever it may be, whatever you decide on your compensation, that's what the toilet bowl winner would get. Now, I know that more commonly are 12-team leagues, which makes it a little bit more difficult. And you can still choose between a free-for-all where it's the top teams advance each week, or a head-to-head where the worst team faces the best team that's not in the playoffs. And as you go through the seeding process. But so whether it's free-for-all or head-to-head with 6 teams, there's 2 ways to do it. Either there's bye weeks, and the bye weeks is something you do have to determine what is your goal of the toilet bowl. Is it to give the teams that just missed the playoffs a chance to get a pick, or is it to try and improve the worst teams? Now, the worst teams traditionally, unless they trade their pick, are getting that 101, 102. So I don't love rewarding the worst teams even more by giving them that bye week. I think that if you're going to do bye weeks in the toilet bowl process, it should be what would have been the 7th and 8th seed in the playoffs should get those bye weeks. But I prefer to not do bye weeks. Even with 6 teams, if we have no bye weeks, you can do top 3 teams advance into week 15. And then the top 2 teams in week 15 advance to week 16. Now, this isn't really something you can do on your traditional MFL bracket, but I know most commissioners end up doing their toilet bowl off of the not on the MFL bracket or on your league software bracket. It's mostly done on a spreadsheet or the league message board. So I do think that in terms of the most fair way of going about things, it's no bye weeks. Try and avoid bye weeks, because whether you're trying to reward the top teams that miss the playoffs or the bottom teams, I do think bye weeks are a bit unfair for a consolation bracket tournament. It's not like the playoffs where you earned getting that bye and getting yourself a better chance at winning the championship. And then, so if you don't have bye weeks, obviously that determines, part of that process is how many teams are in the toilet bowl. And if you have an even number of teams, if you have 8, they can go 8-4-2. If you have, 16 or something in like a 32-team league, then you can do 16-8-4-2. So it kind of just depends on where you are and the number of teams in your league. But my number one recommendation would be to try to avoid buys. Now, one other implementation that I do not have personally in my leagues, but I've seen implemented, is bonus points. Now, this once again has to do with kind of your purpose, your goal of implementing the toilet bowl. If your goal is to try and get that 101 team to also get the 113, you give those bonus points for the bottom teams. You give them, let's say a plus 10 in week 14, a plus 8 in week 15. And therefore, we know that traditionally they aren't going to be as good as those other teams that miss the playoffs that are higher seeded. So you're giving that bonus in order to try and help those bottom teams also get that pick. But like I said, I prefer to just reward the best teams during that week 14 to 16 period. Give that whichever team is the best in that period the consolation pick. The consolation pick shouldn't be how can we give it to the 101. It should be who is the best team among that. So as the commissioner, the things you have to decide are what's your compensation going to be. You have to decide whether it's going to be free-for-all or head-to-head. And then if you're going to do a free-for-all, you have to determine how you're going to do if you have 6 teams, and then it's not going to exactly be even. You can't go 6 to 3 to 1.5. You can go 6 to 3 to 2. You can go even 6 to 4 to 2. However you want to implement that. There are ways to go about it without doing your traditional playoff bracket that you would see on your league software. But it is important to decide when you're doing it, whether you're going to do a free-for-all or a head-to-head. And by that, one of the most important things that I'll focus on for this video is that you have to know when you're implementing a consolation bracket, a toilet bowl, why are you doing it? Like, once you determine why you're doing it, that can kind of mold whether you're going to do bonus points, whether you're going to do head-to-head, whether you're going to do free-for-all. So you have all these options in front of you. You just have to decide which ones you use. Writing bylaws, you're crafting your league. and you can even craft your toilet bowl however you want it to be, and based on what you're wanting to do with it. So that's your toilet bowl. Toilet bowl is a consolation bracket. Traditionally is the 1.13 pick. And who's in it? You got non-playoff teams traditionally. What do you win? Consolation pick. Oh, and also one thing I didn't address. You can do this in auction as well. So just like you basically add the pick at the beginning of the offseason to the draft board, you can do the same thing with the auction. It's even easier in the auction format, where if you give a pick that's between the value of the 112 and the 201, you just say, okay, at the end of the when you're calculating everyone's money, like, okay, this person has 112, 212, 312, and they also have 113, and you add that all together. So you're just adding that extra, if it's $90, if it's $100, whatever that in between value is. That is how you were deciding how you are implementing the toilet bowl rule, and it can be any amount. You just have to decide what the amount is and implement that. So if you're doing an auction league, it's even easier to implement like the reward for the compensation bracket, the toilet bowl. Why, like I said, the most important thing for the toilet bowl is increasing that activity, increases motivation for the non-playoff teams during that week 14 to 16 period, or even expanded if you have expanded playoffs. I do highly advise implementing a toilet bowl. Tries to keep your league as active as possible, and that's one of the benefits. So I think we've covered all of our bases on the toilet bowl. If you have any questions on the toilet bowl, ask me at NPowellFF on Twitter. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to the DLF YouTube channel. Always appreciate you. And that is it for the Commissioner Chronicles Episode 7 Toilet Bowl. Thank you so much. Have a great day.